What's up, everybody? Welcome into MLB DFS Live for Wednesday, July 28th. I am your host, Ben Husser, joined by Justin Bales. I cannot believe it's almost August, Bales. Football is coming. Preseason football is coming, which is most important because we can play some preseason DFS on DraftKings and FanDuel. So that'll be
Yep.
back in the fold. We'll definitely have cores for that. I haven't really decided in terms of any content, but definitely we'll have some cores for that for subscribers. I'm actually getting pretty excited. I think, what is that, like a week and a half away? It's coming up.
Yeah, it's really soon. We also are going to be doing like showdown stuff. We're doing a lot more showdown stuff this year. If you guys didn't know, Ben and I have kind of taken a bit to it, but I'm assuming they're going to have that for preseason, right? And what better way to start than preseason?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Something to look forward to for sure. We have a decent baseball slate on tap tonight. Some better pitching options than we have had the last couple slates. So we can go ahead and dive in here and start talking. Be sure to check out all of our free content over at dfskarma.com. And if you guys don't know, you can get into our Discord for free, obviously, but we merged the DFS Karma and Bet Karma Discord, so you can get free betting picks just by joining the Discord. You don't have to buy anything. The Discord is free. Get in, and you can get some bets that way. But let's dive into the pitchers here. I think it's pretty clear at the top. You have some bigger names, right? Zach Wheeler, Walker Buehler, Lucas Giolito. I think most people will side with Zach Wheeler in terms of the number one spend up. Okay matchup against Washington, but he's just been the best real life pitcher on the slate, right? His Sierra's just over 3 for the season, 30% strikeouts. I know you're a big Zach Wheeler fan, but he's looked really good for pretty much the whole season. So I think most people will agree he is the number one option. I think Bueller is just slightly behind. I think he's clearly the number two, and then you would get into Giolito as the third. I don't know if you're going to go with a double spend up today or if you're going to go with Zach Wheeler and a cheaper guy. But how are you handling the top of pitcher tonight?
Yes, to me it's really rough. Like I tweeted out the pitching chart that I do. I wrote it in the article. Zach Wheeler is the better pitcher between him and Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler, in my opinion, has the better matchup. So I still don't know at the moment what I'm going to do. I guess I probably would slightly lean towards Wheeler. I wrote up Walker Buehler. I do think that he's 100% fine. I think you're basically flipping a coin between the two. And in cash games, I feel like I would probably just want to use Buehler, who's been the better pitcher in terms of fantasy in recent starts. Wheeler's flashed more upside, but Buehler's been much more consistent recently. So I don't know. I guess in cash, I probably go Bueller slightly. I don't. It's listen. You're not gonna get me to commit to one of the two. I think they're both elite plays. I think you 100% can spend up for both of them. In cash, I think specifically either you're playing both of them. I do think Tyler Miguel is fine at 9,200, but I would try to find the extra money to spend up for the top two arms. If you're not doing that, you're going to drop all the way down to Andrew Haney, who's 7,400, which we can talk about is just a ridiculous price tag for his advanced metrics and the matchup against Colorado on the road. But I think that basically those four pitchers are probably the four cash options tonight.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you in terms of that being the top four. Um, I think I just slightly lean Wheeler over Bueller, but I do think you can go either way, right? Like I think you can play both together, and if you are really set on Bueller over Wheeler, I'm just not gonna go out of my way to argue with you. I think they're both the top two options on this slate. After those four, it gets kind of interesting. I don't know if you like anyone in that like slightly below 9K range. I think after those top four, I'm going to be moving down to two 7K guys, and it's Andrew Haney and Tanner Hawk. Haney is someone I've been adamant on fading for the majority of the season, but I think this is a good night to play him. The Rockies are terrible on the road. They've been far and away the worst offense on the road. And the one thing that really gets to Haney is giving up hard contact and home runs, and the Rockies have the lowest team ISO on the road. It's just over 100. Like they have no power on the road. And outside of like Story, who like could get traded, right? Like he might not even be in the lineup tonight. It wouldn't shock me if that's someone that got traded.
Hmm.
They just don't have much that you're going to fear. So I think that's a good time to get in on Haney, whose season long numbers really aren't that bad. And then Hawk's kind of been a guy. I know you and I were both on him in his last start, but I mean his numbers for the season are pretty elite. And I know that the matchup against the Blue Jays is really tough, but I think for tournaments he's a great pivot off of Haney. He has the strikeout upside. He's going to see probably 6 or 7 righties in the lineup, and he's striking out 29% of righties for the season. So I think it's pretty clear I like those two guys at their prices. And if I wasn't playing one of those top four guys, I would just drop down to them.
Yeah, I think that's extremely reasonable. I guess the guys that I would add, I think that Michael Wacha is relatively fine just because of the matchup. He's not someone that I'm, 100% trying to get in my lineups or anything. I agree that I prefer Haney to him. I prefer Hawk to him. The guy that I do believe you can play, and it would kind of pivot off of Tyler McGill, is Anthony Desclafani at 8,800. So he's throwing a bit better than like his advanced metrics are suggesting, but most good pitchers with an ERA under 3 are basically all of them. So I'm not really overly concerned with that. And you're going to get him an extremely low ownership because no one wants to attack the Dodgers. But it's not like their offense has been, ridiculously good over the last 2 weeks or since the All-Star break. I think their team WOBA is like 318, I believe. It's just basically average on the slate. So it's not, I'm not going to say they're a bad offense by any means. That's not even close to true, but they're not an offense that you're just going to run scared from, especially when you have a very solid pitcher like Desclafani against them. So I guess he's probably the only other guy that I'd really consider here.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. I just think like I don't know. I think Haney like has higher upside than those guys, but I don't disagree. I mean, with Mookie's on the injured list, right? Like you're right that you're really not super scared of the Dodgers lineup right now, and DeSclafani has been pretty good. So I think that's a good tournament pivot. Do you have anyone else you're interested in here? Like any of these really cheaper guys? I think the bottom tier today is pretty bad, and I'm just gonna be avoiding all those guys. I think.
Yeah, I mean, not in terms of fantasy. There's no one for fantasy, but I just always get excited to watch Nestor Cortez pitch. It's if you
Yeah,
haven't seen him
that's your
throw,
boy.
it is hilarious. I love him.
Yeah, yeah.
He
But for DFS, I don't think we're playing
no,
any of these guys, right?
no, there's no one down there. I think the lowest would be Hauk. Maybe I guess like if you wanted to play like Adrian Hauser, I wouldn't really try to talk you off of it, but I don't see a reason that you would play him over someone like Hauk or even like Haney for that matter.
Yep, I agree. If you guys have questions on any other pitchers, you can go ahead and ask. We're going to jump into some stacks here before breaking down the positional plays. I think similar to the last couple slates, there's kind of like a big three in terms of stacks tonight, and it's the Phillies, and then both sides of the Cubs game. It's still really good hitting weather in Wrigley, so I think
Mhm.
that's kind of the number one places people will attack. The Phillies have to be number one for me, just with how. I mean, Corbin's been pretty bad for the whole season, but even like the last month or so, it's gotten even worse. And they're honestly not that expensive of a stack. So I think they're number one. Outside of those big three, I really like the White Sox. I'm going to keep playing them against lefties. They're not projecting for massive ownership outside of Eloy Jimenez, who's cheap. And you can anchor your lineup with Eloy and Andrew Vaughn, who are both really cheap on DraftKings. And that could be a way to start out a stack and then still get up for two expensive pitchers. So I think the White Sox are probably my favorite outside of the Phillies and the Cubs game.
Yeah, so two quick things. One, Brent just said this in the chat, and it is confirmed by Ken Rosenthal on Twitter. The Nationals Phillies game might get canceled because
Oh, because
of
of the
COVID.
Trey Turner thing? Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well, that
they
that would I mean, obviously that would affect ownership. Everyone would just move to Bueller, but that would affect a lot of stuff if we're considering Philly being the top stack, and that would take them off the board offensively.
Yeah. My second thing is I'm worried about Roberto Ortiz behind the plate in the Kansas City Chicago game. But with that said, if people aren't playing the White Sox, you have to play them tonight because one, they just dominate left-handed pitching. Chris Bubich is not a good pitcher, and then obviously they get the KC bullpen, so it's a really, really good spot for the White Sox. Their stack is not going to be difficult because, like you mentioned, they have multiple players that are just honestly way too cheap at this point, especially against left-handed pitching. And it's not like even if you don't want to play like Andrew Vaughn or something, Adam Engel's 3,500. Or you could move off like Yon Moncada, who's hitting fifth. You could stack 1 through 4 and then sixth with Adam Engel. He's 3,500. You could probably get both Wheeler and Bueller and a 5-man stack of 5 of the top 6 for the White Sox. And if they're not going to be owned tonight outside of like Eloy Jimenez, I think that's like one of the worst things that chalk players have done on the entire season, basically.
Yeah, I think it's a really good spot. Outside of the White Sox, is there any of these other teams that might get a little bit lower ownership? Like I think Arizona is in a good spot, and that's not typically a team that DFS players look to stack. You could jam in guys like Calhoun, Escobar, and kind of get your stack going there. But I like Arizona for a lower owned one. Do you have anyone else you're looking at here?
Yeah, the two that I really like are Arizona and Milwaukee. I think that either one of them are 100% fine. I think between like Philadelphia, you have both sides of the Chicago, Cincinnati, even like Baltimore, the Angels. Don't get me wrong. I think they're all good stacks, but they all come with like the really high Vegas totals, which is generally what a lot of people tend to follow. So I do think that Milwaukee and Arizona both come a little bit under owned tonight, and they're both in really good spots.
Yeah, I like both those calls. Let's move on to the positional plays here. If you guys missed pitcher or if you have stat questions, you can go ahead and ask at catcher. For me, I like Real Muto, I think is number one if that game is good to go. He's under 5K against the lefty and Corbin. Really would like to play him if that game is good to go. If it isn't, or if you can't afford him, I think Dalton Varsho and Omar Narvaez, both at their prices, are really strong plays on DraftKings, and I would be fine playing them in cash games and tournaments.
Yep, I 100% agree. I'll just add a couple other punt options. I think you can use Zavala for 2,200, Brian Holiday for 2,300, or Jose Trevino for 2,000. Any of them make really good options on this slate. That's probably about it, just because Realmuto and Narvaez for me are just both so mispriced that it's not going to be very difficult to play either one of them.
Yeah, I think catcher's pretty straightforward. First base, I will let you start out here so I don't steal everyone because I think first base is kind of clear as well.
Yeah, I mean, first base for me, Jose Abreu obviously sticks out at 5,000. Trey Mancini also sticks out at 4,900. Of the two, I prefer Abreu. I then also think that 4,300 is ridiculous for Joey Votto. I think that 4,200 is ridiculous for Anthony Rizzo. So if you're going below the 5K, those are the two options that you want to do. With that said, though, my top play is Shohei Ohtani. 6,400 is a lot. You're probably not going to be able to get there, especially if you double spend up at pitcher. But I don't know how you avoid this guy against someone like Chichi Gonzalez. And then also, assuming he's in the lineup, Jared Walsh at 4,800. That's way too cheap against a bad right-handed pitcher. But I mean, any of them are very, very good options tonight. It's just, I guess Joey Votto is probably the cash option that you want to use, followed by Abreu, and then probably Ohtani if you can get up there. But I think all of them that can be used tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. I think the Angels lefties, you can use them at outfield as well. Those are really good plays against Gonzalez. If you're spending up, I think you covered that pretty well. But I'm gonna be living in that 4K, like low 4K tier. Rizzo too cheap, like you said. Votto. I mean, this guy is just locked in. We talked about him. I think 2 days ago. He's hit 3 home runs since then. Dude's on fire. Weather obviously still really good. It's still hot there in a super good matchup. So I do like Joey Votto. It's really tough to fade him. And then if that Phillies game's good to go, Reese Hoskins is only 4,400 against Corbin, someone that gives up
Mhm.
fly balls. Hoskins is a extreme fly ball hitter. Good matchup for him as well. So tons of options in that low 4K tier tonight.
Yep, I 100% agree with that.
I do want to mention that one night I mentioned Miguel Cabrera. He did homer. Um,
The one night you mentioned him.
Yeah, I do want to mention that.
Yeah.
But for cheap today at first base, I think Christian Walker, 3,300, has always kind of hit righties a little bit harder than lefties. If you're stacking your zone, you can consider him, or you could use him as a one-off in tournaments for cheap.
Rowdy Tellez is only
Yeah,
2,300, hitting fifth for Milwaukee. And then I think everyone knows who we're about to say. Bobby Dahlbeck.
yeah. Look, guy, he's been the same price for like the last 4 months on DraftKings. So.
Just make him 5,000 so I can stop playing him.
I know. Second base. I mean, I was gonna just say lock and load Gene Segura here, but if there's questions about that game, we might have to move elsewhere. I don't really love any spend ups here tonight. I don't think outside of Escobar, but I don't see you spending 5,800 for Escobar in cash games, so I might have to drop down a little bit cheaper. Who are you looking at second base?
Yeah, I mean, Escobar makes the most sense. I think if you want to just use someone that's in a good spot and not care about the name to price, David Fletcher is a solid option. He was on fire. He cooled off a little bit. Now he had 3 hits again last night. But 4,900, when you look at a name like David Fletcher, is kind of difficult to hit the button. But matchup against Chichi Gonzalez, especially when he's leading off, is really good. Jonathan India at 42 is a little too cheap, especially for the game environment. And then I'll also add Colton Wong. I just really like Milwaukee tonight, and Wong's a very solid hitter for 4,000. And I lied. My favorite one's Kike Hernandez as well. 44 is still too cheap for him. The only hesitation, obviously, is that it's 7 innings.
Yeah, Colton Wong's actually been hitting the ball really well as of late, so I definitely don't mind using him. We can also look at friend of show here, Josh Van Meter, 3,300, batting third for the Diamondbacks. It's my boy, man. Look, I know
Hey, let's do
whatever.
it. Let's do it.
He won me $10,000. He was in the $10,000 winning lineup earlier this season, so I can say he won me $10,000. Plus, he is, like I said, friend of show, so we can always consider Josh Van Meter.
He's been looking good.
Yeah, he actually has been
recently.
He's been
looking
swinging
good.
the bat really well recently. Third base. I'll let you start out here. I have some options that I really like, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
Hate it. Literally everything at third base I hate. No, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, I'm being 100% serious. There's not really a single play at third base that I'm like, I need to get that. I think guys that are fine, Yo Moncada, I have no problems with that. Eugenio Suarez is still a little too cheap. At 3,400, Alec Boehm is up to 6th in the Phillies lineup, but obviously we have some COVID concerns there. I hate that I'm even saying it, but Isan Diaz?
Yeah.
However you pronounce it.
Yeah.
He I wrote him up in the breakdown yesterday, and I hated every second of it.
You started coming around, man.
I hate playing him, but the minimum price he's supposed to hit second, so we'll see if that actually happens. I think he hit 6th yesterday, scored 10 fantasy points. I mean, at least it's reasonable that he could get a hit off of a righty, right? Like he's not going to hit left-handed pitching really, but for 2K. And assuming he's hitting second because their lineup isn't out yet, I mean, you can plug him in just because the position's so bad.
Yeah, he was going to be my top punt, but I think Suarez and Boehm were going to be my 2 favorite plays here. So if that Phillies game ends up not playing, pretty easy decision. I'll just play Suarez while he's this price. I don't know. I mean, he's going to get ownership because of that. He's going to pop in projections, but I mean, he has power, and I just don't see why he's that cheap. He should be a couple hundred more, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Shortstop, kind of the same situation. There's a little bit more spend ups here. Like you could look at Tim Anderson for 5,500, who I think we both can consider. If you're not using Andrew Haney and we get confirmation that Trevor Story is in the Rockies lineup and he hasn't been traded, that's a really good one-off and a way to get leverage on the field of people that are playing Haney because I do think he's going to be pretty high owned tonight. So that would be something to consider if you're not using him. But I think kind of that 4K tier again. Willie Adames really stuck out to me. I played him yesterday, and he just hits the ball really hard, especially against righties, and I like that price point for him.
Yep, I completely agree. My top option's Tim Anderson. I don't think anyone's even close. The dude mashes lefties. Bubich is not a good pitcher. He gives up a lot of home runs. So I think that Tim Anderson's the top option. Outside of Willie Adames, I think that Jose Iglesias for 100 cheaper, assuming he's hitting fifth in the Angels lineup, makes a whole lot of sense. As you can tell, I do like the Angels quite a bit tonight, but those are probably the three that I would really consider. I don't think there's too much else that I would go with at this position. I feel like the top options that I do like, I actually really like. So I'm not going to say like it's a weak position like third base where I'll just play basically whoever fits. But I don't think that it's a deep position.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Finishing up here with the outfield, I do want to mention like this is the time of year where you need to be cautious of people you're putting in your lineups that could get traded. I mentioned Trevor Story is someone that there's been a lot of rumors about. Another one at outfield is Joey Gallo. Apparently, the Rangers have some like crazy offer on the table that's like a big overpayment for Joey Gallo. So I guess it wouldn't shock me if he got traded. So if you're considering rostering him, just be mindful of that in terms of tournaments. But in terms of spend ups here, I like the Angels lefties. Like you kind of talked about Otani at first. It's a really big price tag now forever. They were just leaving him too low. Now they've kind of priced him correctly, but you can definitely use him in all formats if you can afford him. I'm going to skip the top tier here. I'll let you talk about the top tier, but it's just how do we not start our lineups with Andrew Vaughn and Eloy Jimenez? They're both hit lefties very well, and they're both still under 3K. I don't understand the pricing here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really easy to just use them. And when you look at the top tier, like the high price guys, like obviously you have Otani, who's a really good play, but then Juan Soto gets Zach Wheeler. So like you don't necessarily have to use him. Bryce Harper gets a good matchup against Patrick Corbin, but Harper's not nearly as good against lefties. So it's not like you have to lock and load him. Joey Gallo, obviously we do like the matchup against Bumgarner, but for 5,000, you're risking him getting pulled mid-game. Guy like JD Martinez only has 7 innings. George Springer, you have against a pitcher that's done very well against right-handed bats. So it's easy to avoid the top guys, in my opinion, especially where there's so much value. I would probably say like the one guy up near the top that makes a ton of sense to me is Cedric Mullins, just because he's playing literally so well, and he's still only 4,600. Obviously, leading off for Baltimore gets a good matchup. But I completely agree. This is basically a position where you're going to want to spend down a bit because on top of those guys, you have like Rafael Ortega. Obviously, don't love the matchup against Mahle, but who really cares because the weather's so good? He's 2,500. You even have a guy like Austin Hayes who's 2,900. Then obviously Vaughn, Eloy Jimenez, Adam Engel's 35. Like, I don't know. They've been mispricing outfielders so bad recently that it's actually getting kind of crazy.
Yep, I agree. Like it's just tough, man. I think you could throw Bryce in there for the top tier guys as well if that game is good to go. Even lefty on lefty, I don't mind that. McCutcheon as well will be high owned if that game is going to go at 3,800. Cole Calhoun's 3,100. So there's just a ton of value here. It is probably pretty easy to spend up for pitchers if you want to. I think we covered the slate pretty well. If you guys have any last minute questions, you can drop those in. Bales, I need your home run call for tonight.
Oh man, where do we want to go with the home run tonight? Let's go with I'm going to go with Aaron Judge.
All right, I mean, I can get behind that pretty much every night. It's not like it's a bad, it's a bad
Literally
pick
any
at all.
night.
I'm gonna take, Willie Adames for a little bit different one. I do want to ask
Oh,
you,
good.
who do you think is overpaying for Joey Gallo here, real quick before we get off here? Because I'm so curious to find this out.
It's got to be the Padres, right?
Yeah, I could see Padres. I saw the Yankees were linked to him. I mean, he would just fit right in, right? Home run or bust in that
Yeah.
lineup, dude.
Well, someone tweeted that Joey Gallo has more home runs this season than all of the Yankees lefties combined, which I mean, don't get me wrong, they don't have a lot of lefties, but that's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, and then another guy, Max Scherzer. I guess he could get traded tonight. So I'll be curious to see where he goes. So should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fun deadline. I know that they said the Mets are the highest payers at the moment for Craig Kimbrel. The Mets are the number one option via Vegas to land Chris Bryant. So
Yep.
it's gonna be fun up until the deadline for sure.
Yeah, I think the Rays maybe could make another move as well. That wouldn't shock me. They've been kind of aggressive, more so than usual. But yeah, I mean, Rube and I were talking about the Mets getting Chris Bryant like 4 months ago, like how much sense it made. So that would actually be pretty cool
Yeah.
if they got him. Um,
I could see Atlanta trying for this weird push that they're going,
yeah,
which is it's just weird to me that Atlanta is making such a crazy push. Like they're even if they make the playoffs, like they're going to do something in it. You know what I mean? Like I don't. It just seems odd to me.
yeah. Thank you guys for watching. We do appreciate it. If you guys have any further questions, you can get into our Discord for free. DFSkarma.com. There's a banner right there. ChatDFS.com also has the link. Literally 100% free. You can ask us questions and chat with other people in there all day. With that being said, see you
Very
guys tomorrow.
very quickly,
Go ahead.
we're doing a giveaway
Yeah.
for there will be a DraftKings contest. Whoever comes in the top, depending on how many people are in Discord, will get a free jersey. So join Discord, and there's more. You can see it in the giveaway section. You get more details on it, but basically, we're just going to play one big DraftKings contest, and then a few winners will get the jersey depending on what happens. But get in our Discord, add all your friends. The more members in Discord we have, which is just chatdfs.com, the more jerseys we'll be giving away. So I would highly recommend that. It's just a very easy and free way to win. Literally any jersey you want, you get to pick.
Yeah, free jersey. There's no reason not to enter. Like you said, costs nothing. But thank you guys for watching, and good luck tonight.